All right, so today we're uh, really diving deep into the world of someone you might not know right off the bat,
Hmm.
Hemdanath Majumdar.
Yeah.
But he was a pretty major player in like 20th century Indian art.
Yeah. A big impact.
Yeah, so he lived from 1898 to 1948
Mm.
and just left behind some really fascinating work. And for this deep dive, you found this great article.
I did. It's from paintphotographs.com,
Okay.
and it's called Hemendra Majumdar and His Wet Surrey Paintings, Last Romantic Naturalist Artist.
Oh, wow.
So it's a long one, but it gives us a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it really sets us up well to kind of explore his whole deal, like
Yep.
his life, what he did, and why he matters, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So what we're really going to try to understand today is what made Majumdar so important, like for you listening, right?
All right.
We're going to get into his whole wet sari style. Like, what was it about that that really kind of hit people, you know?
Mhm.
And we also want to put him in context, with the rest of the Indian art scene, especially how he went up against the Bengal School of Art.
Oh, yeah. He had some thoughts about them.
He did.
Yeah.
So to kick things off, where does him and Majumdar's story even begin?
Well, it's interesting because he wasn't exactly born struggling, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, he came from a pretty well-off Zamindar family.
Huh.
This was in what's now Bangladesh, in a village called Gachihata in the Mymensingh district.
Oh, yeah.
But the funny thing is, even with all that comfort, his family was like not into him being an artist.
Oh, wow. So he kind of had to like break out of that mold.
Yeah, exactly. Like going
Yeah.
against expectations.
I mean, that's always so interesting when you see that, right? Like that push and pull.
Totally.
His parents really didn't want him to be an artist to the point he actually left home and went to Calcutta
Yeah, he was serious about it.
just to pursue his passion. Like, that's dedication.
It really is.
And he wasn't completely alone in that either, was he?
No, he wasn't actually. He went with his childhood friend, Atul Bose.
Oh, wow. So they were in it together.
Yeah, they both had that artistic drive. Atul Bose also became a pretty well-known portrait artist. And it's interesting how their art education was kind of all over the place.
Oh, really?
They both went to a few different art schools, but didn't really jive with any of them. Like it wasn't fulfilling, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like the article mentions, he was at one art school but left pretty quickly.
Right.
Apparently, he was asked to make some art to welcome King George V, and he straight up refused.
Oh, wow.
What a statement.
Yeah, bold move.
He then went to the Jubilee Academy, but that wasn't quite right either.
So what do you think all that early stuff with art school says about him as an artist?
Well, I think it shows he was pretty independent.
Yeah.
Like maybe he felt the usual art school stuff just didn't fit what he wanted to do.
Right.
It's almost like he had this vision already, even back then, and those schools just weren't it.
Yeah, he needed his own path.
He did.
Hmm.
But eventually he did go to the government art school, and thankfully that one seemed to click.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he did great there and graduated top of his class.
So he found his groove eventually.
He did. And it sounds like he didn't waste any time starting his career after that.
Nope, right into it.
And it seems like he was all about collaboration early on.
Oh yeah, big time. After graduating, he teamed up with Atul Bose again and also with Jiminy Roy.
Okay.
Now, Jiminy Roy later developed this really unique folk-inspired style.
Cool.
But at this point, they were all working together. They did all sorts of commissioned artwork. And here's a fun connection.
Okay, what is it?
They were creating memorial paintings from photographs.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
It's like what Paint Photographs does now, making art based on photos.
It's crazy how some things come full circle like that.
Right. It shows you how people have always wanted to remember loved ones through art.
Makes sense.
But Majumdar's solo career really took off in the 1920s. That was a huge decade for him.
It sounds like, 3 gold medals in a row at the Bombay Art Society's exhibition.
Yeah.
That's got to be a confidence booster.
It is. That's huge. And the article says the last one was for his painting Smriti, which means memories. That kind of consistent recognition must have been amazing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But as you see with success, it's not always sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
Like, not everyone was thrilled for him.
Exactly. There was this journalist named Kanhayal Vakil he wrote in the Bombay Chronicle, and he actually questioned the Art Society's decision.
Really?
Yeah, he even said something like Majumdar was too high for the exhibition.
Ouch.
It just shows you how much of an impact his work was already making. People were talking, debating, even getting a little upset.
Yeah, it definitely got a reaction.
Yeah.
Why do you think his style, which was pretty traditional and realistic, got that kind of response back then?
That's a good question. I think maybe because at the time there was this growing national pride and a desire for art that was seen as uniquely Indian.
Right.
So maybe some people saw his work as too Western, sticking to those old academic ways.
That makes sense.
Mm.
It's like art can't escape the world around it, right?
It's always part of the conversation.
Definitely. And it wasn't just Bombay where he was making waves.
Oh no! His painting Palaprin, meaning Soul of the Village, also got a lot of love at shows in Calcutta and Madras around the same time.
Wow, so he was hitting it big all over India.
Yeah, word was getting around.
And then in 1926, he had a different kind of win, right?
Oh yeah, he had his first big commercial breakthrough.
Tell me about it.
So this company bought the rights to reproduce his painting Village Love for their yearly calendar.
Oh, that's cool.
It meant his art wasn't just stuck in galleries anymore, it was going into people's homes.
Yeah, that's got to be huge for any artist, right?
Absolutely, more exposure and more money.
Okay, so he's getting famous, making money.
Yeah.
And now we got to talk about what he became known for, that wet sari style.
Right, the big one.
How did that come about?
It seems around this time he started making these big sensual oil paintings.
Okay.
They often showed women, not fully dressed or like in the middle of getting dressed doing everyday things like bathing or getting ready.
Interesting.
And the article talks about this voyeuristic eroticism in these paintings.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
I mean, it makes sense the way he captures these private moments. It's intimate.
It is.
But the thing is, he managed to get some pretty big names to support him, even with that kind of subject matter.
Yeah, who we're talking about?
Oh, like the top tier of Indian aristocracy, Maharajas from all over, like Jaipur, Bikaner, Kota Kashmir, Cooch Behar, Mayurbhanj Patiala. They all loved his work.
Wow, that's a powerful group.
It is. They were clearly into his style and the way he showed women. He even became a court artist, first for the Maharaja of Kashmir for a bit, and then for the Maharaja of Patiala, Sir Papindranath Singh.
Okay.
For 6 years. He made bank during that time.
That's amazing. When you have people like that consistently supporting you, it really says something.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the prices for his paintings were not small either.
So how much are we talking?
Some went for as much as 15,000 rupees, which back then was a whole lot of money.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
And it's funny, the article mentions his painting Radha and Krishna sold for a crazy $37 million just this past January.
Yeah, talk about a jump in value. It shows how much people still want his art.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So let's dig into the wet sari thing. What makes his style so unique?
Okay, so the term the wet sari effect actually comes from this art historian Partha Mitter.
Okay.
Basically, it's about showing women in this erotic way using the la drape mouillée technique.
La drape mouillée. What's that?
It's French for wet drapery.
Oh.
The point is, the women are almost never totally naked. The wet sari sticks to them so you see their shape, but it's not like everything's out in the open.
Right, so it's more about hinting at things.
Exactly. It's all about that play of light and shadow on the fabric and the body underneath.
So it's like a balance between showing and hiding.
Yeah, kind of teasing the viewer a little.
And who are the women in these paintings usually?
Well, a lot of times they were shown as rural Bengali women doing everyday stuff relaxing.
Okay.
And here's something interesting. Majumdar really liked to paint women from the back.
Well, why is that?
I guess it let him focus on the curves of the body.
Yeah.
The shoulders, the spine, the hips. It's like he was sculpting with fabric and light.
Yeah, he was definitely interested in the human form.
Oh, yeah. And he was a master of these techniques like chiaroscuro.
What's that one?
It's where you use really strong contrast between light and dark to make things pop.
Oh, okay, like dramatic lighting.
Exactly. And he also used sfumato.
Another one I don't know.
It's the soft, blurry way of blending colors so that things look hazy and mysterious.
Okay,
Like how Leonardo da Vinci painted, those soft edges.
I get it. And the article also mentions that he usually painted older women, like married women.
Right. Why do you think that was?
I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with ideas about fertility or like the different kind of beauty of someone who's lived a life,
That's an interesting thought. Definitely adds another layer.
It does. Okay, so the article goes on to describe some of his most famous works. We got to talk about those.
We do. Let's start with the gold medal winner, Smriti, or Secret Memory.
Okay, what's that one like?
Close your eyes and picture this. A woman naked, sitting on a bed with a white sari kind of bunched up around her chest. Her face is down, eyes closed, and she's got all these heavy gold amulets on. Her hair's down, and she's wearing tons of red and white bangles and a gold chain.
Wow.
And in the background, there's this old dressing table with a mirror.
I can see it.
The details are what really get you, like the way the sari's all loose and her skin is just glowing. It feels so intimate and thoughtful, like she's lost in a memory, maybe a really good one.
Yeah, very sensual.
Totally. Okay, now Palaprin, which means soul of the village. This one's a perfect example of the wet sari style.
Okay, so what's happening in this one?
Imagine this young village woman coming back from a pond. Her sari's soaking wet and totally plastered to her.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
And Majumdar really went all out, showing every curve of her body through the fabric. Her neck, her shoulders, her spine, her hips. It's like he's obsessed with showing how beautiful the female form is.
Yeah, he was definitely celebrating that.
He was. But here's the thing. Even though it looks like a candid moment, it was actually all planned out in his studio.
It wasn't like he just stumbled upon this woman and painted her.
Yeah. Nope. He probably used photographs and stuff to get it just right.
So it's like real life, but also artfully constructed.
Exactly.
Okay, I got to hear about this one, Dili Kaladu.
Oh, yeah, that one.
The subtitle is The Obscure Object of Desire, which is so intriguing.
Right. It's this huge oil painting of a naked woman seen from behind. She's just starting to wrap a sari around herself.
Okay.
And the colors are all soft and warm, but her face is turned away. You can barely see a hint of her breast, and the way the light hits her is just magical.
Oh, wow.
She's standing against these dark green walls, and she's got these gold amulets on. The fact that you can't see her face makes it even more mysterious, you know?
Yeah, you want to know who she is, what she's thinking?
Totally. It's like he's playing with us.
Okay, what about that untitled one from the 1930s? The one with the woman in the pond.
Oh, that one's so dreamy. Picture a nude woman standing in a pond, the wet sari clinging to her. The colors are soft and romantic, and she's looking at her reflection in the water.
Sounds peaceful.
It is. She's wearing red hibiscus flowers as earrings, and there are water droplets on her skin. It's all very sensual, but also calm. The pond is in the woods, surrounded by lily pads and white flowers.
I could practically hear the birds chirping.
Right. It's tranquil.
Okay, last one, Wounded Vanity. This one sounds a lot different emotionally.
It does. In this one, you've got a woman with her back bare, wearing a purple sari. She's leaning against a dark wall with her head in her arms, like she's really upset about something.
Oh, wow.
But she's still dressed up, you know? She's got her hair all done up with a gold headband, and she's wearing gold bangles, amulets, and a gold waist ring. You can see the curve of her back and the outline of her butt through the sari. The contrast between her skin and the dark wall is stark. It's like he's showing her vulnerability, but also her strength.
That's powerful. It's interesting how even when she's sad, he's still focused on her body and how she's decorated.
Right, like those things are always important to him.
They are. The article also talks about how skilled he was, technically, you know?
Oh, yeah. He was amazing with a brush. He used all these fancy techniques like alla prima, which is painting wet on wet,
Okay.
and fat over lean, which means putting thicker layers of paint on top of thinner ones.
Oh.
And his drawing skills were top-notch, too. People considered him the best figure painter in India at the time.
Wow, high praise.
He deserved it. He had the talent to make his vision a reality.
So it wasn't just ideas, he could actually execute them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, now we got to talk about him and the Bengal School of Art because they did not see eye to eye.
Yeah, fill me in.
So Majumdar was all about academic naturalism,
Okay.
but the Bengal School, led by Abanindranath Tagore, was more into historicism.
Historicism.
Yeah, like focusing on historical themes and a more nationalistic kind of art. They were also big on spirituality and symbolism.
So basically, two totally different ways of thinking about art.
Exactly. And it caused some major tension. The big question was, is naturalism a betrayal of Indian art, or is the Bengal School the only way to revive it?
Wow, big debate.
Majumdar and his crew were all about representing things as they are. You know, direct observation and truth in art.
Yeah.
They believed that kind of art had universal appeal.
Right.
It wasn't just about being Indian, it was about being human.
And they didn't just sit back and let the Bengal School run the show, did they?
Oh no, they fought back.
Hmm.
In 1920, Majumdar got together with some other big names like Jogeshchandras, Seal, Jamini, Roy Habani Charanlaw, and Atul Bose.
Okay.
And they started the Indian Academy of Fine Art in Calcutta.
Oh, wow. So they were like, we're making our own thing.
Exactly.
Huh.
They saw the Bengal School and their journal Rupam as too controlling.
I see.
And they even got Sukumar Roy on their side. He was the father of that famous filmmaker Satyajit Ray.
Really?
Yeah, and he helped them publish their own journal, so they were serious.
They were creating their own space for their kind of art.
Exactly, and they didn't just talk. They organized exhibitions showcasing tons of art from artists who shared their views.
So they were walking the walk.
They were, and they published this 5-volume series called The Art of Mr. H. Mazumdar between 1920 and 1924.
Wow.
And they got his paintings into all these art magazines. He even put together an album called Indian Masters to promote his style and the artists he liked.
So they were really strategic about it.
Oh, yeah, had a plan.
And then in 1929, he wrote this article called The Making of a Picture, where he laid out his whole artistic process,
Yeah.
from sketches to the final painting.
Right. He was showing everyone how it's done, and it was all very traditional, very much in line with what the British taught and what earlier Indian masters like Ravi Varma did.
So he was connecting to tradition, but also making his own statement.
Exactly. And he didn't stop there. He started his own art journal called Shilpi that same year.
Wow, he was busy.
He wanted a platform to share his ideas and to critique the Bengal school.
So what were his main criticisms?
Well, he thought their focus on history was getting old.
That-
It wasn't really relevant to what was happening in India at the time.
Oh.
And he also said they weren't that great technically, with their actual painting skills. He thought they hid behind all the spirituality and symbolism because they couldn't paint realistically.
Ouch, that's harsh.
He even wrote this article called Cobwebs of the Fine Arts World. That was just brutal. But to be fair, the article does point out that he might have been a little too hard on them.
Right, because even within a movement, there's going to be a range of talent.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not all black and white.
And I guess these kinds of disagreements are what shape art history, right?
Sure. It's all part of the story.
So his work was shown all over India during his lifetime.
Oh, yeah. He was in tons of exhibitions in Bombay, Madras, New Delhi, Calcutta.
And people are still interested in them today.
Oh, yeah. In the early 2000s, the Delhi Art Gallery organized these big retrospective exhibitions.
What's that?
It's like a big show looking back at an artist's whole career.
Cool.
And those shows really helped people rediscover him and see how important he was.
That's great.
And you can still see his work in museums and collections all over India.
Oh, cool. Like where?
There's the Academy of Fine Art in Kolkata, the Bikaner Palace, the Birla Academy of Art and Culture, and the National Gallery of Modern Art in New Delhi.
Wow.
And then there are private collections, too, including those of some of the royal families who were his patrons back in the day.
So his legacy's safe.
It is.
So what's the big takeaway here? What did Hemendranath Majumdar contribute to Indian art?
Well, the article says that along with Jamini Roy and Rabindranath Tagore, he was one of the guys who shaped what we call modern Indian art.
Interesting.
They all had their own styles, Majumdar with his romantic realism, Roy with his folk stuff, and Tagore with his more expressive way of painting.
Right.
But together they created something new. They drew on Indian traditions, but also brought in Western influences.
And that influenced later Indian artists.
Exactly. And Majumdar died in 1948, leaving behind a ton of work and a real impact on Indian art, even if people don't always remember him.
Yeah, it sounds like he deserves more recognition.
I think so.
Okay, so just to sum up for you listening, Hemendranath Majumdar was a huge deal in Indian art. He was known for his romantic realism, especially those wet sari paintings.
Mm-hmm.
He was successful commercially and critically, and he wasn't afraid to go up against the big guys like the Bengal School of Art.
Nope. He stood up for what he believed in.
He did. We hope this deep dive gave you a better sense of who he was and what he did and why he matters.
We really tried to give you the full picture.
And to leave you with something to think about, Majumdar was all about realism and sensuality. And he really disliked the Bengal School's focus on spirituality and history.
Right.
So how do you think his work would be seen today in the art world, which is so different now?
Good question.
Would people still appreciate it, or would they see it differently now?
I think it's worth considering.
It is. That's something you could explore on your own. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Always a pleasure.